Ready when y'all are. Good morning and welcome to a Vox in the Box at FM 100.3 KFAN, your home for Minnesota Wild hockey. And the Philadelphia Flyers are in town tonight. We have 17 games to go in the Minnesota Wild season. It's a meat grinder atop the division. Been like that all season. Three of the better teams in the NHL surging to the line together. And one of them is the Minnesota Wild, coached by John Hynes, who joins us from TRIA Rink in St. Paul, Nordo produces. Kara Savage is here with the KFAN social team. And Kevin Gorg is the co-host for the first couple of segments. Good morning, gentlemen. How are things?
Very good, PA.
Great, PA. Good to be with you.
Good to see you, Hynesy. I'd like to begin with a little bit of Philadelphia Flyers-related trivia, if you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
And in fact, let's do it this way. I have 3 questions for you, okay? And you and I are going to spot up and bet $20 because I don't want to put a head coach of a professional sporting team in a position to make any form of
let's keep him on the bench.
$1 wager on the radio airwaves. And here are the questions. So get your minds ready. I know it's early. Now, first and foremost, the absolutely best player in the history of the Philadelphia Flyers would be
Bobby Clark?
Bobby Clark.
Yeah, Bobby Clark. I mean, not only best, but formidable. All right, so here we go. So I got you and I for 20, and I got Hynesy, and you got you. We only have 3 questions here. Here's the first question. Now, Bobby Clark, all time, leads the Philadelphia Flyers in points and assists. Who's number 1 in the history of the team in goals? Your name's your buzzer. Your name is your buzzer.
John LeClaire?
Incorrect.
I don't think he played there long enough, but I'm going to go with Eric Lindros.
Incorrect. Okay, now get ready. Your name's your buzzer. I'm going to give you a hint. Started in the early 70s. Initials BB.
Bill Barber.
He didn't say his name.
I didn't say my name.
Hynesy. All right, 10 kg to begin a very controversial Vox in the Box. All right, here we go. Name is the buzzer. Easy one. Name the Flyers mascot.
John.
Hynesy, go.
Gritty.
We're tied at 1, surging down to the line together. It's a dead heat right now. They come down to the line together to begin Philly Flyers trivia, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter. Number 3. Which Flyers goalie?
Gorg.
Okay.
Bernie Perrant.
No, Dan Vladar. You're going to say who's starting tonight, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to change the question.
Which Flyers goalie starts this evening? They used their backup last night to beat Ovechkin.
You're not going
It was which Flyers goalie as the single-season record for wins? Bernie Perrant, 73 and 74 with 47 wins. So let's segue into, let me get this straight. So the Flyers in the 70s, early 70s, beat you up with the Broad Street Bullies, and they had like the best goalie in the league.
Did.
Well, that's unbelievable. I mean,
absolutely.
How about if you had a fast, physical team like that, and a Bobby Clark, and you got a nice team here, and a Bernie Perrant. That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it is. Back in the day.
Now, with Philadelphia here this evening, how excited is Bobby Brink to see his former team tonight? Is that like something you're just like tapping him on the shoulder and say, hey, you know those guys, right?
Yeah, you know, it's actually two games for him where obviously his first game again in the Minnesota Wild jersey. Last game he was really excited for that and scored a nice goal, and obviously playing so quickly against your former team I think always gets guys juiced up.
How much, players always talk about trade deadline when they get moved, how they're learning a new system, they're learning to build chemistry with new teammates. I'll use Bobby Brink as an example. As a head coach, how much are you getting to know him, and what have you learned about him in the first couple of games watching him?
Yeah, it's both. Bobby's coming in and trying to learn a lot of things. When you come into a new team, you're the new guy, so you're trying to figure everything out. I think he's done a really good job, as of all the guys that we've added. But you do, as a head coach, you try to spend some time with the guys, talk to them a little bit, just about their personal life, how they're adjusting, whether they have families, don't have families. Bobby's case, moving home basically, and how those things are adjusting. And then you also, you count on your the team in general, I think, does a really good job of helping that with the guys. And you also count on your assistant coaches to be able to spend some time with guys as well.
It feels like right now, if and when you get everybody healthy, Coach, that you've got 5 formidable lines. I've kind of looked at the depth chart, so to speak, and I know Marcus Foligno's still a few weeks away, and I know that there are still a lot of questions to be answered. But for you as a head coach, how much does that internal competition help build that intensity every night? Because it sure feels like guys are looking over their shoulder right now in a good way.
Yeah, we always talk about you want to have healthy internal competition. I think the stronger that your team is and the deeper that your team is, I think that naturally provides it. Because if you're a player in the lineup, you do know that there's guys that are formidable guys that are chomping at the bit to get in. So I think that in turn drives individual performances, which I think drives our team performance. And in saying that, I do think that when we talk about a healthy competition, that we want to be a real team. So not everybody can play every night. So I think the way that we handle and communicate with the guys that aren't going to be in the lineup, the guys that are not in the lineup, how they handle it, which is important to being a team, but also understanding guys may come in and out. It may be performance related or it might not be, but we want to make sure that everyone feels important and valued, because we're going to need, as we said to the team, every guy in that meeting room, when we meet here in a little while, they're important to our team. We're going to need them down the stretch and into the playoffs.
Another new player I'd be curious to get your thoughts on is Michael McCarron. I had a chance to watch him up close in Vegas, watched him on TV the other night during the nationally televised game. What kind of impact has he made?
Mike's made a very big impact. Came as advertised. He's a big personality, as a big human. Very engaging, great teammate. He's been good in the face-off circle, brings physicality, moves well for a big guy. He's added to our penalty kill. So all those things that he can play center and wing. He's played both for us so far since he's been here. So it's been a good addition for us.
When the trade deadline passes, people will talk about players, and distractions and wondering, am I going to be here? Am I going to be there? They read social media, things like that. What about the coaches? What about you? When that's done, do you feel whether you added a bunch of guys you wanted to, maybe you missed on some, maybe it was status quo, but from a coaching standpoint, does just the entire bubble burst there, where it's okay, guys, it's all behind us now, we can move on and focus on the lesson at hand?
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what we talked with the team about after it was over. Was this is the group that we're going to battle with down the stretch in the regular season and into the playoffs. And prior to that, there's always all kinds of different conversations with the management of what we need, the style of players, what we can do, what we can't do. There's different targets. I thought that this year was exciting for us. I think it was exciting for the team because we had, some identity, identified some players and characteristics of players that we wanted, and fortunately we were able to get them.
Now the Flyers are on a back-to-back, having beaten Washington last night at home, back-to-back with travel. They're 3-6 this year on back-to-backs. It's been kind of rough for them on their last 3, second half of the schedule. At this stage of the season, this deep into the season, when teams go on back-to-backs with travel, where are some things you notice maybe they begin to lack? Maybe they start to get mentally and or physically fatigued, specifically those who probably won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, you know what? I think sometimes it's a slippery slope sometimes with the back-to-backs. I think the team that is in the back-to-back, they've played the night before, they're focused, they've traveled. They're kind of in that game competitive mode, and I think they're coming into a team, too, knowing that they've got to – normally you see a lot of teams on the back-to-back start well. And it's your job to take that competitive will away from them over the course of the game. And I think that's, if you do that, then you can use some of that rested versus non-rested team, I think, over the course of a game. But you've got to come out and make it really hard on the team right away. That they need to know mentally and physically that they're going to be in for a hard game. And I think when you do that, it's usually kind of attrition over the game that you can use that fatigue to your advantage if you force the team into it.
So that's a pregame preach to your team, right?
Correct.
Yeah, right. I mean, pointed out exactly like that beautifully.
Yeah, a couple of nights ago that played out. Utah had played in Chicago the night before. They came out in that first period, looked very good. They're a team that's a tough matchup for a lot of clubs with their speed and skill. They had given you fits as the game progressed. What were you guys able to do as a group to counteract how Utah wanted to play and eventually put them away nicely?
Well, I think it was one of our more complete games. I thought we played fast. We were very aggressive. We didn't allow them to use their speed because we were in good spots up the ice with our forecheck, our neutral zone forecheck. We were on top of them and made them have to come through us if they were going to get offense. We didn't give them any easy offense. But I also liked, I think when you look at our team, I thought we were, physically engaged and we were hard to play against in that area. Faber had a big hit on Cooley early, I think 4 minutes into the game. And I thought we were engaged against their defensemen. And, that's what we need to do. That's how our team's built. So I think when we play that way, it gives us a chance to be able to be the more competitive group.
Coach, what a super competitive league this year. And I know you guys killed Utah the other night. They had beaten you earlier in the season. But like with Logan Cooley and Utah and some of these other teams around the league, don't you feel like that they've gone from pretty good to good approaching very good? It just seems like, you have the royalty of the league, so to speak, but then just a bevy of teams who are just sitting on becoming really good.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the league has started to change a little bit. I think you have teams that have been in the upper echelon continue to be there and maybe falter a little bit. But I do think that there's, some of the younger teams, like I know Chicago's out of it, but they're extremely competitive and fast. They beat Utah the other night as well. They're difficult to play against. San Jose's taking a step. Anaheim's taking a step. Buffalo's taking a step. Detroit's taking steps. So I think when you look at, I think both conferences, it's extremely competitive, and it is true. I mean, on any given night, anyone can beat anyone if you're not at the top of your game, and that's why I think there is so much parity in the league. There are teams obviously that are out of the playoffs. But,
yeah.
You look at some of the teams that we've played that have been out of the playoffs. If we're not at our best, it's a 50-50 game.
Right.
Phil Gustafson's had, for the most part, a really good season. Didn't have the Olympics, John, that he wanted. Didn't play for Team Sweden the way I think he had hoped he would. Came back from that Olympic break and has looked like a completely different goalie. Now we're looking at some substantial data here, a handful of starts. What have you seen that's allowed him to play at such a high level here since the Olympics?
Yeah, I think prior to the Olympics, I think he's had a great year for us all year. He was playing at a high level, which I think going into the tournament, the expectation was for him to be the starter and played a few games. But you never know when you go to national teams and Olympic tournaments or world championships, certain experiences, they play out certain ways. But I think it's another, I'm really proud of him because I think that maybe it wasn't the best experience that he felt he could have from a playing perspective, but it's another experience, right? And he comes back to it, and it shows a little bit of maturity, some mental toughness coming back in. But I think he feels comfortable with our team and our group, and he's right back to his game. He's got great practice habits. I think his game has been extremely consistent. He's very competitive, and he's kind of in that zone right now. He's making big saves for us when we need him, and he's making the routine saves very easily. So, I think it's just another experience and growth for him to go through, a good experience where he started pretty well there, but didn't finish maybe the way he wanted it. But he comes back to our group, and he's right back to where he needs to be.
How close is Moose? And like with Marcus Foligno, is there a full expectation that you would get him in the playoffs at the latest?
Yeah, I would anticipate that. I don't have a for sure timeline on him. But I would anticipate that he would be back before the end of the regular season, and then into the playoffs.
Now, and in closing with Philadelphia here tonight, and just this meat grinder of the schedule that's taking place the rest of the way, and Kirill Kaprizov, clearly 97 is high end in the NHL. But when you guys got back from the Olympic break and he had like that full break, he's just so full of pop right now. Just every single game, it's like very good to elite has gotten closer to elite,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you, and that's what we need from Kirill, and I think that's what he expects. It's what we expect from him. But I think the break was good for him. He went home, and I think he had a chance to, first time he's been home, see his parents and things like that in the winter. I think mentally and physically, I know he trained hard when he was over there, so I think he got a mental and physical break, and I think he's really, really excited here down the stretch. He's a competitive guy. He wants to win, and he knows and we know that when he's at his competitive best, it makes us a even more difficult team to play against. So it's great to see him at the level he's at, and hopefully we can continue and he can continue to raise his game and continue to be the guy that we need him to be.
They're the Flyers goalie Vladar. He's sneaky good, isn't he? I think he's 20-11-6. His save percentage is 90 and a half or something. He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player, man. He was in Calgary last year. He played us really well. So, he's a guy that's competitive, good in the net. He gives them a chance to win whenever he plays. So we need to be ready for him.
That was awesome. Who gets the net for you guys tonight?
Wally.
I appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you.
God bless you, Hynesy. See you, man.
See ya.
That's John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild. They take on the Philadelphia Flyers this evening on KFAN shortly after 7. Beloved KG is here for the first couple of segments. Nordo produces, and this is a Vox in the Box presentation from the capital city of St. Paul and TRIA Rink. Your Wild will be on the ice within the next hour, so we get a chance to see Husey, and we'll chat about him and the rest of the festivities here at TRIA when we return to FM 100.3 KFAN.
You want to have healthy internal competition. I think the stronger that your team is and the deeper that your team is, I think that naturally provides it. Because, if you're a player in the lineup, you do know that there's guys that are formidable guys that are chomping at the bit to get in. So I think that in turn drives individual performances, which I think drives our team performance. And in saying that, I do think that when we talk about a healthy competition, that we want to be a real team. So not everybody can play every night. So I think the way that we handle and communicate with the guys that aren't going to be in the lineup, the guys that are not in the lineup, how they handle it, which is important to being a team, but also understanding guys may come in and out. It may be performance related or it might not be. But we want to make sure that everyone feels important and valued, because we're going to need, as we said to the team, every guy in that meeting room, when we meet here in a little while, they're important to our team. We're going to need them down.
Minnesota Wild, nice enough to join Vox in the Box from TRIA with the Flyers in town tonight. Welcome back to KFAN and the 9 to noon radio show with yours truly, Paul Allen. Coming up a little later, we have Russo Radio at about 10 o'clock. Minnesota Wild General Manager Billy G. Bill Guerin joins us shortly after 10:30. And radio and television analyst Alex Stalock will be here at TRIA with us at 11 o'clock. Meanwhile, Senor Spotty, Kevin Gorg, is battling, I would say per usual, because I've known him 27 years, per usual, a range of emotions right now involving some form of sporting event. This happens to be the TPC at Sawgrass, where the emotions have been a little up and down because of we got a millie maker. We have people scratching after one hole. We have texting with a former captain, the captain of the Minnesota Wild, 37, about his scratches. And what a frenzied morning for you so far.
Yeah, they start early. Tea time started at 6:30 this morning. We've got the Players' Championship, the fifth major, as you will, underway. And, Wes Wall's already sweating out Rory McIlroy's back. He doesn't tee off until this afternoon. Has another player scratch in Ryan Fox this morning. And then some of us touted Colin Morikawa as a good bet this weekend. Played one hole, made par, got to the 11th hole, his second hole, teed off, did something when he took the swing. And the back was bad, saw the specialist on the course, got in the golf cart, and off he went. And he was the most bet player in every sports book across America. So there's some consternation on social media.
All right, well, being the most bet player at the TPC with all the betting shops around the country and world is one thing. Our betting shop at FM 100.3 KFAN happens to be the Power Trip Morning Show. And you were there yesterday. I know you had the 9 spot, got Cam Young. Who got Morikawa?
Well, this was kind of controversial as well because it was the first pick in the draft. Scheffler's the ghost.
Yes.
Rory's got the bad back. Corey Cove wins the spin, gets the first pick. He's Morikawa for life, and one hole in, he's dead. That's kind of fun.
That's fantastic. That makes it, if you're hockey and Saucy and the ancillary people on the show with him sitting in that one chair, you get a chance to take some shots at him.
For sure.
Because he generally does pretty well in that stuff. Deeper on the Philadelphia Flyers. They've beaten the Wild 5 of the last 6. Including a 2-1 overtime win at Philly. I believe you were there. 6th game of the season.
Feels like forever ago.
Yeah, I don't think it, because of so many moving parts and stuff like that. I mean, shoot, Husey wasn't on the team. You could just start there. It's way too far back in the season to be like, hey, what do you got to do differently there to win a low or high scoring game? But the deep diving the Flyers yesterday, it's a non-playoff team. It's hockey immortality. They're using their number one goalie tonight. There might be 3 players on the team I've heard of. And I look at it not super closely, but kind of closely every single day. One of them is Nick Seeler, Eden Prairie High School.
Great kid.
Yeah, fifth round pick by the Wild, I believe, back in the day. But when I say Philadelphia's tricky, it's if you look, since everybody got back from the Olympics, like their record's decent, their goals allowed ain't bad, they're awful on back-to-backs, and they've only scored 14 goals, but their record's not. So it just seems from afar that they want to suck you into some kind of tightly knit game and then just let puck luck lead the way late. I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, I also think they've got 71 points. If they're in the Pacific Division right now, they've got a chance to win a division. So part of it might just be where they're located.
Yeah.
And then I look at their roster, and I know it's second of back-to-back, and I see Noah Cates, Stillwater kid, good player. Go. Alex Bump just played his first National Hockey League game, Prior Lake Zone, scored a goal in that first game with the call-up. He's got a goal and an assist in those 3 games with the Flyers. You mentioned Nick Seeler, Minnesota kid. They're going to come with an effort tonight. They saved their starter for this one. I look at the line. I know Minnesota's a heavy favorite tonight, but this looks like a weird spot to me. You're off what was a really emotional, playing with double revenge, 5-0 win against Utah where everything went your way. You played great for 60 minutes. And here's kind of one of those weird spots on the schedule, and this is a test. And I think it's gotten frustrating for Minnesota. They've played great hockey here, going into the Olympic break, coming out of the Olympic break, and they can't make up any ground on Dallas, which is really the only carrot that's out there. If you're John Hynes in Minnesota right now, home ice, if it matters to you, is the only carrot out there. And Dallas is sitting here gone 12-1 in their last 13, and you've played great hockey and lost ground.
Yeah, what are you, 3 behind the Flyers?
You're 3 behind Dallas, and they've got a game in hand.
I mean, Dallas, thank you.
That's tough. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, game and a half in baseball terms, but then you factor in.
Dallas has a grinder game tonight, I think.
They're home to Edmonton. I don't know how grinding that's going to be.
Point.
I mean, come on.
Well, we got 2 against.
I thought it was Colorado. My fault.
2 against Dallas down the stretch, right?
Yeah.
You have 1 here and 1 there, I believe.
So that potentially, if you're gaming those 2, that solves that issue a little bit.
For sure. That does make a difference. And listen.
So why can't Edmonton be grindy with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard? Are
they're
you kidding
coming
me?
off a win in Colorado. They fired their bullet 2 nights ago, so pack a lunch tonight.
I'm sorry, I clipped.
And really, to be honest, I don't know how much home ice will really matter. I get it. Craig Leopold, it matters.
He wants the extra game.
Minnesota fans, it matters. But if you really break it all down, Minnesota's been great on the road all year long, and so it'd be nice to have for sure. But I'm in the camp where if we get down to the final week or 2 of the season and it still looks like Dallas has a 3 or 4 point edge, I'm going to take a look at maybe giving Matt Boldy or Brock Faber or Quinn Hughes a game or 2 off. And listen, I know it's not the NBA. I know we don't do the load management thing.
Yeah, that whole
but
thing
when you
sucks.
don't have an Olympic break, when you play and win a gold medal during that break, when everybody else is going back to Russia or going to Cancun, that matters to me. And so for the guys that were absolutely on the grind and play big minutes every night, if the Wild aren't going to have anything to play for in that final week or 2, I would certainly consider that.
The NBA, with what you said, and Nordo and I talk about it off the radio more than on, it's been an embarrassment this year.
Yeah.
With the load management.
Brutal.
And it's like, because now you have, there's a player, I think he plays for Duke, Boozer, Emerson Boozer.
He's a good player.
Is that Carlos's kid?
It's got to be, right?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's, there was Cooper Flagg last year. Big time player. This Boozer's he's a franchise changer.
Stud.
At one point you had, whether it was the Brooklyn Nets, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Washington Wizards, just like the dregs of the drag. I mean, they had lost like a combined 21 consecutive. Nobody's trying to win. You had Brooklyn playing Memphis the other night, 2 of the worst teams in the NBA. And it was like the Washington Generals against the Washington Generals. Hey, Jalen Wells shot an air ball. Here comes Nick Claxton. Watch my air ball. I mean, it's you got that, but then the resting of the players, and if they're like 10% hurt, we're going to sit them out because we look at this game and we think we can get it, but we got a big one on the. It's making it really, really difficult to follow the league. Now, the Timberwolves are having some significant problems right now. They've been blown out 3 consecutive. To the credit of the Wolves, they don't do that with generally with Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle. It's been a little more this year, but that's sorry to rant there, but it's just very, very frustrating following that league. And
it's interesting, whether it was Steve Kerr the other night talking legitimately about the idea of playing 10 fewer games in an NBA season. You mentioned for years we were thinking to ourselves whether it was the Blackhawks, more recently a good example would be the Florida Panthers, how those long playoff runs stack up over a number of years. And so now it's not just the Stanley Cup champs, though. And as much as we love the Olympics, we're going to love 4 nations and all of these things, the league's about to extend to 84. So we're going to tack 2 on that. And then every couple of years, you're going to have a significant number of big-timers in this league, maybe not, an extra 3 weeks of work tacked onto that. So there's no rest for the weary as it pertains to what this schedule is going to look like, and I don't think it's going to change. I think it's only going to get more down this road of a lot of games in a short period of time.
The one thing I'll say about this coaching staff in specific, I think they do an excellent job of picking their spots with practice time, and a lot was made of this by Michael Russo and others in the first half of the season, but the way it's played out, they've been able to keep this team healthy and full of energy deep into the season, even with really no break for 9 guys that played in the Olympics. And you saw it again this week. Off day Monday, game Tuesday, off day Wednesday. I'm telling you, as recent as 5 years ago, this would never happen.
Yeah.
And John Hynes and Bill Guerin have worked in unison to make sure these guys get their rest. And you're looking at a schedule this week where you're going to play tonight, you're going to play Saturday, and you're going to play Sunday. Now, there's going to be a light practice on Friday in between, but coaches and now managers need to take a look at how they deploy their practice time because, listen, these are NHL guys, and you can do just as much work behind the scenes looking at film and talking things out in meetings. You don't need to drag them out of the ice 5-6 times a week.
What how's Bill Guerin is, I'd say 70-30 to join 9 to noon today. He's working with the Make-A-Wish group and doing some stuff like that. I think he'll definitely stop by. But how do you think the general manager would feel tonight if it was, say, I don't know, 5:15, 5:30, and he catches Bobby Brink out in the lobby by the hockey lodge, setting up like 125 people to come watch the game tonight?
It's funny. He got asked about that in the post-game scrum, and he said, listen, I didn't get tickets for anybody. They got their own because, it's kind of fun, the way that thing played out. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but then it was a little bit like, no, we got work to do. And I think it's this time of year, right, when you get this late in the schedule and you're Bobby Brink or anybody that gets moved to a new team, you've got to make an impression.
Yeah.
And that competition I talked about with John Hynes is legitimate right now. If I'm Marcus Johansson, I feel good about who I am. I've had a good year, right? But, no, listen, Bobby Brink and Matt Boldy have chemistry from back in their days wearing the red, white, and blue. And so there's all kinds of moving parts to this roster. And every night right now, Nico Sturm goes out in Denver and scores an unbelievably cool shorthanded goal. And he's a healthy scratch the next game. And so the maturity that they have to bring to the table, what's at stake, and then understanding that there's a legitimate competition within this roster for ice time. It's going to be really interesting to see how the final month plays out.
Well, wait until Moose comes back. I'm not, you know 1,000 times more about this than me, but like McCarron is making all the dances. He's big. Okay, well, when Moose comes back, now all of a sudden Hynes got to start thinking about some different things with McCarron and Brink. Fabry, he's not playing right now. You talked about the Sturm.
I like Fabry. Now,
but hasn't he been a healthy scratch of late?
He has, and so you make a great point. So we know what we have with Zuccarello, Kaprizov, and Hartman. We know that. Let's just play devil's advocate and say that Johansson, Boldy, and X stay together, and now Brink's become a nice third-line option with Tarasenko and Europe. There's your top 9. You have now, when they're healthy, 6 guys.
I like that third line.
Trenyon, McCarron, the 2 Felinos, Fabry, and Sturm. These are 6 quality players. You only get to pick 3 of those 6. 3 good players up in the press box. It's going to be super, super intriguing.
See, for Coach Hynes, when you asked that question, I was just like looking at him answer it, and you could see his mind going, because some would call it the oxymoron. It's a good problem. Well, yeah, it's a good problem until you put the wrong guy in, that was the wrong way to put it. It's difficult from a matchup standpoint, will dictate who plays. I would imagine, but still, it can't be the easiest thing in the world.
Try having a conversation with some of these players that are veteran players that are brought in to make legitimate impact on the ice.
Right.
And you're going to have a conversation with these players that, oh, by the way, great job in Denver, great scoring that shorthanded goal, great being a glue guy for us all year, but I'm going to need you to go to the press box. The ultimate test of any team player is if you truly care about the group more than yourself, can you handle a game or two in the press box? And that was kind of John Hynes' point with us is you have a conversation one-on-one with a player and then you expect them to be a team-first guy. It's easier said than done at this time of the season.
How tough is it then maybe from a rhythm standpoint? Like I picture, for instance, last year I had to take a few weeks off of work. Well, when I came back to the office, it took me a couple of days to remember the thing that I've been doing for 12 years now. So if you're a player and you're a healthy scratch here, then you jump in, you play 12 minutes or maybe 10 because you're on the fourth line. Then you're out again. Ooh, then I get 14. Then maybe I'm out 2. It feels like, that is a mental game as well with these players, puts them in a spot where I know when my number's called, I got to be as ready as anybody on this squad to perform, even if it is fourth line minutes in some respects.
Luckily, the 6 guys I rattled off are all veteran players that have figured out the routine that it takes in this league. There is a cadence to getting ready to put your best product on the ice. And so for a player like Nick Foligno, for a player even like Yakov Trenyan, they've done it enough, Nordo,
yeah, that's fair.
Where when they hit that ice for morning skate on a game day, they're working on whatever they have to work on, where at 7 o'clock that night, they're going to answer the bell. And they know that they don't have the luxury of having a couple of shifts to get back into that routine because you're only going to get 6, 8, 10 shifts in that game. You better not take 2 off. And so I think the healthy competition can be a really good thing, provided all these guys are actually bought into the fact that this is a cup contender. It's going to be a long run. There are going to be injuries, and we are all going to be a part of this thing. And at the end, if we do this right, we're good enough where we can dream about this, and it's real right now, where there's a chance in June where we're all going to celebrate with that big silver trophy and get our name on it. And that makes it all worthwhile.
It doesn't hurt now. I mean, you can speak to Dallas if you want, but I would imagine it doesn't hurt that you absolutely know in a 7-game series against the Colorado Avalanche, we can beat them. I'm not going to guarantee that we will beat them, but it's different than it has been where it's like, they're pretty heavily favored here and this would have to happen. It's those games against the Avs from the game the day after Thanksgiving that was here. The shootout loss and then the 5-2 in between. The Wild play so confidently against McKinnon in that group.
They do, and they play well against the best teams in the league. They're 2-1-1, PA, to your point, against the Avalanche. They're clearly the team to beat in terms of winning the Cup. Wherever you look, they're the favorite, rightfully so. They've been good against Dallas. They've beaten Tampa. They've beaten Vegas 3 straight times. All 3. Clean sweep of the team that beat them in the playoffs last year. They have elevated their game against the best in the league all season long. That bodes very well. And I just think that the depth that they have been able to now put together. Bill Guerin did a wonderful thing at the trade deadline where now no matter what happens, and I really do feel this way, no excuses, but if you look at the last handful of years, yes, first-round exits, but they have not been healthy. Key players missing each and every year. This year might be the year they have depth and health on their side, and it might make a big difference.
How much can you pull from those regular season matchups? So, first of all, I think it's a good omen or a foreboding to the positive in terms of this is a team, by the way, that had trouble beating those squads for 2-3 seasons we're talking about.
Their numbers weren't pretty for 2 or 3 years.
That's cool. You can go to the Shark Tank and you can wax them, or you have this huge long streak against the Canadiens. But anytime it's the Stars, anytime it's the Avalanche, man, cower now because it's going to be 6-2 and it's going to get ugly. That has flipped. But still in the same sense, we were talking about the Timberwolves a bit earlier, just looking at how things match up. They're a team that's game against the OKC Thunder, for instance, during the regular season. They'll lose a game in a series in 5. So I'm just curious how much you can pull from some of that in hockey specifically that says, okay, the way that we matched up with Vegas, for instance, and the way we limited Eichel and Stone and all those guys, that actually can tell a story of a playoff series.
I think it's psychological. I think you have to convince yourself first and foremost. And I think when you play a competitive schedule like the Wild have, play against the best, and have success, it builds into that confidence. But let's all be honest. Until you do it when it matters most, who cares? And so you get into that series with Dallas. You know it's going to be a grinder. You know it's two of maybe the 3 or 4 best teams in the league. But what you've got on your side right now is you've got a different look and a different feel, Nordo, to this team. And I've been around this team for 2 decades, and I'm telling you right now, the swagger that they bring on a nightly basis from that locker room to the ice is different. I feel it, and I know it. And more importantly, they do. And I think, Bill Guerin going out to get Quinn Hughes flipped the script dramatically. They were already a good hockey team.
Yeah.
They went from being good to great, and they know it right now, and I think it shows in the way they've played all year long.
Well, one of many things that I like about them you just touched on. They'll lose, okay? It could be in overtime or regulation.
Happens.
They don't get killed. And things don't perpetuate. That's I've just learned in all of sports, the best teams that sustain consistently are the ones who don't let problems get out of hand. And that seems to be this group.
Well, the clunker they had 2 Sundays ago against St. Louis. St. Louis, a team you likely should
That was a weird game, man.
It didn't look right. The team didn't have a lot of juice. They didn't play well. Okay,
Right.
fine. Come out 2 nights later against a really good Tampa team that's fighting for their lives
Killed
to
them.
win a division with Buffalo and smoked them.
Yep.
And then validated that by continuing on to beat Vegas and to give Colorado what I thought was a wonderful game over the weekend. This team just feels different, man. They have a different attitude, and you watch this team, the way they handle their business, they look and feel like a cup contender, and I'm really excited to see what they can do in the playoffs.
Now, Bobby Brink played 55 with the Flyers. He had 13 goals and 13 assists. So for those who are going to see him in person for the first time tonight, or for those who are just starting to watch, Minnetonka, we get the whole thing, so maybe they remember him from days gone by. But if they hadn't followed him in the NHL, what do you like about Bobby Brink? What does he do well?
I like his hockey instincts first and foremost, PA. He gets the game. He knows where the puck's going to be, and he knows how to get there. He's got the speed and skill when he makes those plays to create offense. And if you watch him in the limited time we've seen him in a Wild sweater, it does feel like every time he's on the ice, the Wild are dangerous. And what's interesting to me is he's got that speed and skill. It's not Matt Boldy. It's not Kirill Kaprizov. But because he's on that third line, think of some of the matchups this guy's going to get. So him and Tarasenko, to me, super interesting in that third line role.
Mm-hmm.
And with Bobby in particular, would you say that he's playing with a more talented lineup here in St. Paul than he was out in Philly?
Probably a little more pressure, obviously, in Philly. Probably has to do a little bit more. And I think when you put what a player wants is opportunity. And when you give him an opportunity to play for this team, think of the attention that top line gets with 97. Think of the attention that Matt Boldy brings.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, okay, if they're putting their top couple lines or top couple sets of D out rightfully to limit our top couple lines, who's left? And now you've got players like Brink, like Urov, like Tarasenko that have terrific offensive skills. And because Urov is so good defensively, you're going to spend a lot of your ice time on the attack. If I'm Bobby Brink, I'm loving this situation.
Yeah, and that's where, like Marcus Johansson, you mentioned him. I kind of think about him in the same context where if you asked Marcus Johansson to be the guy, you probably could be underwhelmed potentially. And that's not an indictment of him.
No.
But then you put him with a Boldy, you put him in a spot with uber-talented guys around him. Now you're like, hey, JoJo's having a hell of a season here. And I'm just kind of thinking mentally that maybe Brink in the new spot with some different faces around him, potentially a similar type of ascension could take place.
They have a lot of the same skills. You bring up a really solid point, Nordo, because they both play the speed game. They both have good hands. And so you look at Eck and Boldy and what they do specifically. Eck is the grinder. He's the go-to-the-net guy. He's the trenches guy. Boldy's the creative guy, but you need a speed guy to open up that rink. They play off each other very well. Brink being a very similar player to Johansson, sliding into that spot when Johansson was out of the lineup, I think is a good thing because Marcus Johansson now has to feel the heat that every night he's got to answer the bell.
Yeah.
So the depth that Minnesota has right now, the old saying is all boats will rise. Well, certainly when you've had that pressure to get the ice time you want at crunch time in the season, everybody's going to play with just a little bit more juice.
So with the Philly Flyers, mentioned it earlier in passing, I first met Nick Seeler when he played for Lee Smith at Eden Prairie High School. Just a quick little flyby meeting. So I remember him from there. I know he was drafted by the Wild. He's played 62 games this year for Philly, so he makes all the dances, about 18 minutes a game. Like Seeler, is he good?
He's really good.
Is he really good on the blue line?
So what he does is he's one of those stabilizer guys. Take a look at a guy like Zach Bogosian. He's got enough jump to get up there. You've seen him score goals, but he's gritty, he's tough, and he answers the bell. And what I love about Nick Seeler, when he played here and when he's played anywhere else, including Philadelphia, is if there is something that goes down, and if there's a teammate that gets cheap shotted, he is the absolute first guy into the battle, and he will drop the gloves with anyone. He is absolutely fearless, and from talking to guys that play with him, wherever he's played, just beloved in the locker room.
Since the Olympic break, the Wild's PK, the penalty kills, almost 90%. It's third in the NHL since the Olympic break. What are you seeing?
Well, it starts with goaltending, and both Gustafsson and Wallstedt have been brilliant since the Olympic break. That's your most important penalty killer. A little slight improvement in the faceoff circle. It's still a work in progress. And then you look at some of the pieces that Minnesota has added, and you heard Coach Hynes talk about a McCarron who's such a weapon on the penalty kill. I love the way Yakov Trenyan is playing right now, a big part of that penalty kill. So you've got some key players making contributions. You're winning a few more draws. But the bottom line is, I don't care if it's now or in the playoffs, your best and most important penalty killer is the guy in the blue paint. And I really believe Gustafsson has been amazing. And then Wallstedt, who gets to start tonight in limited data, the one start we saw here recently against Colorado on Sunday, that might be his best effort of the year.
And what you were there, right?
Denver I watched on TV.
Okay. See, I thought maybe you were there, but just not doing the work and traveling back with them. All right, so the question is probably not in play, but that was his first game against the Avs since the game Nordo went to the day after Thanksgiving.
The celebration?
Where, let me see. He's young. He's new. McKinnon and Makar are unbelievable. He stops them both to win the game, celebrates, and the entire Avalanche fan base just completely took umbrage with it. I just wonder what Ball Arena was like that day for him.
Well, watching on TV seemed awfully loud, and certainly I'm sure there were some fans that got after him. He's a pretty cool customer. You get to know these guys, and you do with the Vikings too. When you're with these guys so much, he's a pretty even keel guy. And I know that on social media that celebration kind of blew up. There was a T-shirt in town, which is great. But you're right. I mean, it got blown way out of proportion.
It was unbelievable.
He's a young kid. He just stopped two of the best players on the planet back-to-back shootout sequences in front of 19,000 fans.
Yeah.
He's entitled to celebrate. Simmer down, people. Like, come on, let the kid have his moment.
I think their Vox kind of blew it up, too, because
shockingly,
he said that he acted like he won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I'll say this, though, just because that audio hit me back then, and I was at the game. But I've checked in and listened. He's actually a terrific Vox. Like, people give that guy he's emotional, he's in it, he loves his team.
Where have we seen that before?
He's offended when the opponent does anything well. It's awesome.
I think Fallness gets after him too, and that makes it even more fun.
But when we have good Voxes combined with good teams, the rivalry of butting heads in this division,
I want that. I want that
good
matchup so bad.
The getting is so good in the Central right now.
I want to get through Dallas. It will be tough. I get it, but I want that matchup. I want Minnesota and Colorado. It'll be just spectacular drama.
Max Grazerman, 5 under through 9.
Troy's loving it.
Tony Finau, 4 under through 8.
Undrafted.
JT, 3 under through 6.
Oh, good. He's getting healthy.
Ricky Castillo, 2 under through 8.
Okay.
Maverick McNeely, 2 under through 6.
Nice.
And that's where we are.
No Scheffler up there. Okay.
Yeah, he's 1 under. He's probably like 10th or something now.
Okay.
You're the best.
Love you guys.
Yep, I appreciate it. Love you too.
Cheers, man.
That's Kevin Gorg, FanDuel. He'll be on television this evening at Gorgomatic21 via X if you would like to follow. Russo Radio 15 minutes from now. NFL free agency, Kyler Murray conversation. Wolves hitting what I would deem to be the low point of their season right now, despite their nice record. They're going to be a playoff team, but they got LA Clippers. Those topics and more when 9 to noon continues with a Vox in the Box presentation on KFAN. Covenant cleanup provided by
Crickets.
Covenant cleanup. It's not Emerson Boozer who's going to be the first pick in the draft. Who's it going to be?
It's going to be Cameron Boozer, PA.
Covenant cleanup provided by nobody. Emerson Boozer, former National Football League player, spent his entire career as a running back for the New York Jets in the AFL, then the National Football League. Played with Joe Namath, was part of that Jets team that upset the Baltimore Colts as 21.5-point underdogs in Super Bowl III. Emerson Boozer, part of the Covenant cleanup that makes up 9 to noon.
That's an elite pull, though, by the way.
What is?
Well,
Emerson Boozer?
Emerson Boozer.
Yeah.
Because
saying he's going to be the number 1 pick in the 2026 draft.
Well, no, that's what led to the Covenant cleanup.
It's the best ever.
Clearly you've encountered in your mind on television or via an article of some sort Emerson Boozer.
Yeah.
But and you've probably experienced this, you're a little bit older than I am, but you start to get to the point where guys that you appreciated, like Carlos Boozer, playing high-end hoops, and now his son is slated to be. I'm just starting to see that more and more often now, letting me know I'm not a kid anymore.
Russo Radio about 7 minutes from now, maybe 8. Let's skate on over to the NFL and skate on over to the NBA if we need to. We can do that a little later. But National Football League free agency. Kyler Murray, potentially a quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, potentially as early as today, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe never, because there are just so many things popping up about Kyler Murray. And I'm going to let you can rattle off that work you put in here momentarily, but I don't know if you, what's going on Russo Radio? About 7 minutes if you got to go get some steam. I saw something online yesterday from an Arizona sports radio host.
Greg.
So you saw it. Okay, now this guy had a tweet that opened my eyes where I'm like, wow, that's kind of an outside of the box thought. Let's deep dive it a little more. So then I found the video of him talking about Kyler Murray and his representation potentially are as much concerned about next year as opposed to 2026. And then he's like, well, think about it. Say this is Matthew Stafford's final year. Kyler could go to the LA Rams, back up Stafford. If Stafford goes down, Kyler plays. But if Stafford retires, now Kyler's with McVay, and Puka, you're satisfied, and Kyron Williams, and that nice team with the good corners. I'm like, damn, man, I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm scrambling to find, because then it was reposted or re-reported on by, I think, both Schefter, Pelissero, and others. The idea that Kyler was going to meet with 3 to 5 teams via Zoom, and I think this may have taken place last evening.
Yeah.
And it was the idea that they were teams potentially in need of a QB for 2027.
Right.
And so then he would be, after that, would be coming to Minnesota to meet with the Vikings. So that was kind of lending to the steam that, well, are you just showing up to sign the paper then? And then we're already thinking fast forward to a year from now where it's going to be a free agent bonanza, cash in pocket, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that does two things. That it says, okay, well, if whatever the highly favored Vikings have to say or do in this conversation, that this could be, if the Vikings want this to happen, that it will happen. That's kind of what I feel like as I woke up this morning. If the Vikings want Kyler here, he's going to be here. But then a year from now, it also sounds like we're going to be battling. If he has a good season with the Vikings, we'd be battling those 3 to 5 teams, maybe others, for his services from a financial standpoint.
Well, when you watched that clip, or if you watched it, I got the feeling that this Radio Vox, this Arizona radio guy, that he's juiced into something.
Yeah.
That he either knows the agent for Kyler, or he knows Kyler, or he knows Kyler's dogs. But I mean, my man was talking so confidently about this, about the potential of this scenario, that I was like, wow, man, you might know where some bones are buried here.
Yeah, and his name, the Arizona
it's like
radio
John
host,
Borzymowski or something.
Well,
it might be Emerson Boozer.
It might be Emerson Boozer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find it here. So it's John Gambadoro. That's what it is.
I got close.
Gambadoro is the gentleman that was talking about it.
Used to be a consigliere in the Russo crime family.
Yeah. So here's the post. I didn't see a video. Kyler Murray is going to visit with the Vikes tomorrow. A starting spot is a priority.
Yep.
and Minnesota does offer that. So again, lending to the idea that if he comes to Minnesota, it's kind of been my opinion that this ain't a competition. You're not sitting Kyler down and say this is a 50-50 proposition with McCarthy. He notes that a deal could be done in the next 24, but his camper expected to explore several options as a backup in 2026 for teams that could need a starting QB in 2027.
Where'd that come from? Like yesterday with Gessling or Tuesday with Gessling, I didn't even write this down. I was just like spitballing, thinking, does it have to be a one-year deal? Can it be like a 2-year with a bunch of contingencies? Because think about it, the most well-respected capologist in the history of the NFL is your acting GM. So if there's anybody who's able to be part of identifying something and crafting something where it's like, hey, don't tell Kyler, we're just going to bend him over a barrel and rip him. No, it ain't that. It's like pragmatic for the team, cool for Kyler if he likes it. But then the Gambino crime family guy in Arizona, he says, when he said, think about it, this is probably Matthew Stafford's last year.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go there and roll into that thing next year? And I'm like, damn, that sounds good.
Yeah, and so if that's on the card, if that's on the table for conversations, then this entire thing changes, or the complexion of it changes throughout the next 24 hours. But the only thing I'd say in a multi-year deal, if you're Kyler Murray, why would you sign to a longer extension?
I understand.
Unless you pay at true free agent market rate, right? Because he's using this as the launch pad into 2027.
Yeah, it's a box.
And it's like, a financially or team-friendly deal would say that second year, 2027, is $25 million or even $30 million. If he plays well in 2026, he's going to immediately vault himself back into a $40 million a year conversation.
Russo Radio is next from TRIA Rink in St. Paul. This is 9 to noon.